The wave of fortune. Your thoughts return to you like a boomerang. Antipode to the pendulum. Now we can look at the task I set you earlier of determining which type of pendulums could be described as constructive. The answer is none. It sounds paradoxical, but it is true, and I hope I have not offended the reader by asking a trick question. All pendulums have one and the same goal, which is to receive energy from their adherents. If the energy supply is cut off, then the pendulum's swing stops. A pendulum is constructive only in relationship to itself, never in relationship to an adherent. What could possibly be constructive or creative about the fact that your energy is being taken? Of course, different pendulums are destructive and aggressive to different degrees. It is difficult to imagine a beach volleyball club ganging up against the winter swimming club, and membership to the beach volleyball club is hardly likely to ruin your life. Of course, these types of pendulums still need to feed on the energy of their adherents. If the members became bored of playing volleyball, the life of the club would die and the pendulum along with it. However, this is nothing compared to the membership of a criminal gang, where one could lose one's freedom or even one's life. One might ask how a person can be giving their energy to the pendulum of the gym where they train if whilst they are there, they are completely focused on getting fit. You are focused entirely upon yourself whilst you are training, but you are still obliged to observe a certain set of rules. At home, you can do whatever you like, but at the gym, all its members are required to act in relatively the same way, to follow the established rules of the system, and in this way, make their energy available to the pendulum. If all the club's members suddenly leave, the pendulum will no longer receive its source of energy and therefore stop swinging. The question can be put in a different way. Do energetic structures exist that do not require your energy? It turns out that they do. One is the wave of fortune, or set of circumstances that are favorable to you personally. Every individual has their own wave of fortune. Sometimes you are lucky with something, and then a whole cascade of other pleasant events unfold unexpectedly as if the sun had really chosen to shine on you. A cascade of pleasant events may not always follow the first, but if the first sign of good fortune pleased you and lifted your spirits, then a cascade of the same will definitely follow. The, quote, wheel of fortune, unquote, and, quote, bluebird of happiness are not simply abstract metaphors. The wave of fortune is really a set of lifelines that are auspicious for you personally. The alternative space contains everything, including lines like golden veins that run through the information field. If you have found the outer line of a golden vein and catch on to a piece of good luck, you can slide by inertia onto other lifelines where events of a similar nature are accumulated and a new set of fortuitous circumstances awaits you. If, however, the first piece of good luck is followed by a streak of bad luck, it means that a destructive pendulum has managed to hook into you and draw you away from the golden vein. The wave of good fortune brings happiness without taking your energy. It can be compared to a sea wave that carries an exhausted swimmer onto the shore. The wave of fortune will carry you onto happy lifelines. Like the pendulum, the wave has no interest in your fate, but it has no need of your personal energy either. If you want to, you can float with the wave and let it carry you, but if you do not want to go with the wave, it will pass you by with no regret. The wave of fortune is a temporary formation. It does not feed on the energy of other beings, and so eventually fades like sea waves break upon the shore. The wave of fortune sometimes touches your life in the form of good news. The wave of good fortune brings in information from other lifelines. In comparison with your current lifeline, the resonance of the information is perceived as good news. The task is to grab hold of the rope and pull yourself onto the lifeline that the information originated from, for there you will find not just good news, but fortuitous circumstances also. It seems as if the wave comes and goes, whereas in actual fact, the wave of fortune does not move, increase in strength, or weaken. In this model, we have used the term wave as a metaphor, but as has already been mentioned, the wave of fortune is stationary in the alternative space, existing in the form of more rewarding lifelines. In fact, it is the discontinuity created by moving among different lifelines that creates the impression of the wave, as you either take hold of from a stroke of luck, embracing the blessing and inviting it into your life, or distance yourself from it, distracted by other pendulums. Because the wave has no interest in you personally, it is easy to lose sight of. The wave will pass you by and set off on its own way. This is why people are inclined to believe that the bluebird of happiness is hard to catch. You do not actually have to make a huge effort to saddle a wave of good luck. It is a question of choice. If you accept the wave of fortune into your life, it will stay with you. If you allow yourself to be influenced by a destructive pendulum and become immersed in its negative energy, you will be distanced from the wave of good fortune. As they say, finders keepers, losers weepers. The bluebird will happily peck grains from your hand. You do not have to catch the bird, but neither must you drive it away. This is one of the most paradoxical aspects of the freedom of choice. People really can choose happiness and success for themselves, and yet at the same time remain restricted by pendulums that lead them away from the wave of fortune. Here we return to a theme we discussed earlier. To claim freedom of choice, you must be independent. You have the right to be free of the influence of other people's pendulums. Now we will clarify how you can claim this right. The boomerang. Most people's minds are filled with constant chatter. If the chatter is not controlled, negative thoughts begin to dominate very often. As people, we are most concerned with what we fear, with what oppresses or displeases us. The human psyche has developed over a period of thousands of years under the influence of destructive pendulums, which have kept people in a condition of fear so that they can be manipulated. As a result, people tend to have a very clear idea of what they do not want, and yet have a very vague idea of what they do want. To align your will with a negative thought machine means to play the game of a destructive pendulum and radiate energy at its resonance frequency. This is a very detrimental habit. It is entirely in your interest to replace it with the habit of consciously controlling your thoughts. Whenever your mind is unoccupied, when you are traveling, going for a walk, or doing work that does not require deep concentration, make sure that you program yourself to think positive thoughts. Do not think about what you have been unable to achieve. Think about what you want to achieve, and you will achieve it. If, for example, you do not like the house you are living in, you will probably say to yourself, "I'm sick and tired of this house. Everything about it irritates me. I'll be so happy when I move to a new place. I can't help it, I just hate it." With thoughts such as these, there is no way that you could possibly receive what you want. Even if you are definitely moving to a new home, you can be sure that huge disappointments await you. Okay, you say, but I'm still leaving this old shed and moving into a luxurious mansion. What disappointments could possibly await me? The greater your enmity for the home you currently live in, the more unpleasant surprises you can expect to experience in your new palace. You can expect all sorts of problems: a leaking tap, peeling paint, crumbling walls, pestering neighbors. In short, anything that maintains the parameters of your current negativity. It makes no difference whether you are living in the old house or the new one. You may find a life path equipped with all the mod cons, but you will still be dissatisfied as you were before. The alternative space has no shortage of luxurious houses where you will feel like you are living in hell. If you have nowhere else to move to, you are all the more likely to stay living in a space you cannot bear because your thoughts are unlikely to be attuned to the frequency of a lifeline on which you are successful in finding the house of your dreams. You are currently thinking about the things you do not like and consequently radiating negative energy which matches the lifeline you are on now. Until you change the vibration of your energy, you will just have to keep putting up with the same line. Changing your vibration, however, is not that difficult to do. First of all, accept the current situation and let go of feelings of dissatisfaction and resentment. If you try, you can find little causes for joy in any situation. Even if you do not like your house, be grateful to it for having taken you in and looked after you. There may be wind and rain outside, but the house takes it all for you, keeping you warm and safe. Surely the house at least deserves some recognition. If in this moment you are thankful for what you have and feel love for all the things that are helping you to survive, you will radiate positive energy. Then, if you so desire, you can quite realistically expect an improvement in your circumstances. When you finally do move, make a point of thanking everything that surrounded you in your previous home. Even the things you plan to throw away deserve your gratitude. In these moments, you are transmitting positive energy into the environment which will return to you later. Secondly, start thinking about the house you would like to have. This is a little harder to do than simply being irritated by the things that surround you right now, but the goal is worth it. What is better, to react to every external irritation like an oyster in a shell, or to make a little effort and change your habits? Look through estate agency advertisements with photographs of houses. Go window shopping in search of furniture and decorations and live the thoughts of what you want to have. We can always end up getting the things and situations which our thoughts are most strongly attached to. Our thoughts always come back to us like a boomerang. There are so many examples that illustrate how a negative attitude can ruin your life. Imagine that you are getting ready to go on holiday in the South where it is hot, but the weather where you live is terrible. You walk outside cringing from the cold wind and getting soaked in the rain. Naturally, it is difficult to deduce much pleasure from this type of weather, but you can at least take a neutral standpoint and ignore the potentially destructive pendulum associated with it. If you openly express your displeasure, you are accepting the pendulum and pushing it to make it swing higher. You say to yourself, "Soon I will be in the South, enjoying the sunshine and warm sea, so sod this dump." This kind of attitude is hardly likely to attune you to a lifeline filled with heavenly pleasures. You just will never ever get there. Do not be lulled into a false sense of security simply because you have already bought your ticket. You could easily arrive to find more bad weather or some other issue. Everything will turn out fine as long as you stay positive. It is not enough to make sure you are not taking in negative energy from without. You have to make sure that you are not putting out negative energy too. If you shout at someone because you are irritated by something they have done, you can be certain that soon afterwards something will go wrong or some kind of annoyance or problem will arise. The parameters of the negative energy you are transmitting correspond to lifelines where you experience irritation, and so you are inevitably carried in the direction of lifelines where the destiny of disappointments and misfortune is higher than average. Do not fall into the trap of self-justification with the thought that the particular irritation could not have been avoided. I have nothing to prove in writing this. Simply observe for yourself how every time you react negatively, something else regrettable follows. One very clear conclusion can be drawn from all that has been said above. You are always on a lifeline that represents the quality of your energetic vibration. If you take in negative energy, you will experience disappointments in your life, and if you give out negative energy, it will return to you like a boomerang in the form of disappointment. Transmission. Instead of playing the game of a destructive pendulum, seek out pendulums that benefit you in some way by their game. Acquire the habit of giving your attention to all that is positive and good. As soon as you see, read, or hear something pleasing or encouraging, hold it in your thoughts and let it lift your spirits. Imagine that you are walking through a forest where there are beautiful flowers as well as poisonous thorns. Which would you choose? If you pick a bunch of elderberry flowers and put them in a vase in your home, you will soon get a headache. What would be the point of that? It is the same thing as reacting to destructive pendulums. It is better to pick a jasmine flower, admire its beauty, and savor its aroma. Let in the things that are positive, and you will be greeted on your path by ever more good news and auspicious opportunity. Once you have experienced a brief moment of inspiration or joy, it is easy to get pulled back into the stresses of your daily routine. The feeling of elation is forgotten and the working day takes over. To keep the festive feeling in your life, first and foremost, you have to remember it. Habit makes us jump headfirst back into the monotony of everyday life. The negative pendulums make us forget whatever the good thing was that happened, and we lose a sense of pleasure it gave us. You have to support the little flame of enthusiasm and nourish the feeling it gives you inside. Observe how life is moving in a better direction. Take hold of any straw of happiness you are offered, and look for good signs in everything. At the very least, it will keep you from being bored. It is essential to remember that in every minute you give to the transurfing practice, you are consciously moving towards your dream, setting the course of your own destiny. This in itself imparts a feeling of calm, confidence, and happiness that helps you to stay positive. Once this feeling becomes a habit, you will be constantly riding the crest of the wave of good fortune. Be happy for all that you have in this given moment. Being happy by definition is no empty invocation. Sometimes circumstances unfold in such a way that it is genuinely difficult to be content, but nonetheless, from a practical point of view, expressing your dissatisfaction is highly disadvantageous. You want to get to the lifelines that inspire you, but you cannot make that shift if your energy field is filled with the vibration of dissatisfaction. Good lifelines differ in that the circumstances you encounter fill your thoughts with happiness and contentment. Good news is quickly forgotten because it gives us no cause for concern. In contrast, bad news evokes an active response because it poses a potential threat. If you do not let bad news into your heart, you will not allow it into your life. Close yourself off to bad news and remain open to good news. It is important to note and carefully nourish any positive change in your life, for these are the messengers of the wave of fortune. As soon as you hear any even slightly encouraging news, rather than forgetting the information immediately afterwards, as you would have done previously, savor, discuss, and track it. Think the news over from all points of view. Take pleasure in it. Make predictions and expect further improvement. In this way, the vibration of your thoughts will remain at the frequency of the wave of good fortune, and you will be attuning yourself to its parameters. The good news will increase and life will get better. To filter information in this way is neither a practice of mysticism, nor is it a particular quality of the human psyche. It is the nature of reality. The pessimist looks at the world through black-tinted glasses, and the optimist through rose-tinted glasses. Either way, you shift to a different lifeline according to the quality of your thoughts. When you are in right relationship with yourself and your environment, you transmit harmonious energy into the world around you. You create an area of harmonious vibration around yourself in which everything unfolds successfully. A positive attitude always leads to success and creativity. Negativity, by contrast, is always destructive and aimed at disruption. There is a certain category of individual who prefer to look for problems rather than their solution. This type of person is always happy to discuss their difficulties and seek out new obstacles. People like this usually have trouble offering a practical way out of a situation because they are programmed to search for difficulties rather than solutions. A determination to focus on problems will bring them to you in abundance, leaving you stuck with a situation that is causing you grief. Criticism and targeting the negative side of a situation will always bring fruits of a corresponding nature. This does plenty of harm and not much good. Look around you and you will find people like this in your circle of friends and acquaintances. This is not to say that they are good or bad. They are firmly hooked up by a destructive pendulum. The majority of people respond antagonistically to any undesirable event that occurs in their lives. As a rule, any event which does not follow the original script is claimed undesirable. The opposite is also true. We can only perceive success in forms that correspond to the expectations of our original script. A person might be terribly upset about being late for a plane, which then crashes. The opposite can also happen where a person lets a unique opportunity pass them by because it did not fit into their plans. The more negative your thoughts about life, the worse your life will become. The more a person worries about failure, the more readily new failures will appear in their life. As the saying goes, as the call, so the echo. A person who chooses this way of being practices the opposite of transurfing on a daily basis. They are sliding down a lifeline that can only lead to their personal hell. Take the exact opposite position. Be joyful in the face of failure and deliberately look for even the slightest blessing. You can always find something. Maintain the perspective that the glass is half full. The rather banal saying that everything happens for a reason always stands true if you decide to make it your tenet. You have to firmly hold your course in the direction of all that is good, letting go of the old habit of getting upset and downhearted at any minor obstacle. If a person is strong, every failure they experience is taken to be a useful lesson, making them tougher and more experienced. Find joy in all parts of your world, and you will transform it into paradise. This is, of course, a very unusual way of behaving, but it fits the unusual goal of becoming your own genie and making all your wishes come true. Unusual goals require unusual methods. It is difficult to practice this type of behavior at first because the old habit of reacting negatively to anything that disappoints us is so deeply entrenched. The most important thing to remember when you suffer a setback is that the setback has been created by a pendulum that is trying to get its hook into you. Once you remember this fact, you can make a conscious choice as to whether you would rather vent your negative emotions and give energy to the pendulum, or gain victory over the pendulum by leaving it without a scrap of your emotional energy. Once you can remember this, it is not that difficult to defeat a pendulum or still its sway. As has already been said, pendulums pull on your emotional strings, and your habits are the trigger for the mechanism that captures your thoughts. Even though you have just read this chapter and have set yourself the goal of not responding to any bitter pill, you might still fall into the old pattern of expressing a negative reaction. However, you will become conscious of the fact that you forgot and responded out of habit instead. As soon as you can remember in time, the situation will be under your control. You will laugh to yourself. Aha! So it's you again, you old pendulum. You won't hook me so easily this time. You will be free to accept or reject the pendulum consciously. You will no longer be the puppet. If you practice this technique consistently, with time you will succeed in replacing the old habit with a new one. Until that happens, pendulums will try to provoke you in all kinds of ways. You will notice how, as soon as you start behaving differently, you are bombarded with unpleasant news and circumstances, as if someone was deliberately trying to thwart you. Do not give up. On the whole, these will be small frustrations rather than anything more serious. If you do not give up and learn to remember, the victory will be quite impressive. Mind my words. Another possible result is that the next time you meet with the wave of fortune, pendulums will not succeed in distracting you from it, and the bird of happiness will remain in your hand. In order to fully embrace the bird, you have to surround yourself with positive energy. You have to become a transmitter of positive energy as well as a receiver of exclusively positive energy. If you can do this, the world around you will very quickly change for the better, and you will easily slide onto more successful lifelines. In the end, the wave of fortune will greet you, lift you up, and rush forward, carrying you on to success. Transurfing does not end with learning to ride the wave of good fortune. This is just the first step. As you read on, you will see that there are many more surprising discoveries to be found. Magic rituals. To conclude this chapter, I want to share an example of how the technique of attuning to the wave of success works. There are various situations in which people automatically make attempts to attune to this frequency, even though they may not be aware of what they are doing on an energetic level. For example, at the beginning of the day, traders often give their first buyer a significant reduction. Intuitively, they feel that their first buyer is very important, and so they give a good deal to the first buyer to secure the day's trade. In the language of transurfing, they are tuning to the vibration of successful trading. It is difficult to simply hold the idea of a good day's trade in mind, whereas the first sale instills the trader with real hope and faith, as a result of which the attunement takes place of its own accord. Through action, the trader has mounted the wave of successful trading by radiating thought energy with corresponding parameters. The trader believes that their wares will sell quickly, and buyers are immediately gripped by the vibration of this thought and obediently make a purchase when the trader hints at the idea, convinced that they have found a bargain. Another curious magic ritual is used by market traders who brush money across their wares. Of course, of itself, this action has no impact, and in essence, there is no magic in this ritual. However, if the trader believes in the power of the ritual, it will help them to attune to the frequency of the lifeline of successful trading. The attunement takes place on a subconscious level. The person performing the ritual is only aware of the superficial, visual side of the ritual, but nonetheless, for whatever reason, it works. The ritual works as a theatrical requisite rather than as a power unto itself. The key power involved is the thought energy of the person carrying out the ritual. People in different professions invent their own magical rituals, which they conduct to help them in various situations. People believe in them and apply them in order to attune to a successful lifeline and mount the wave of good fortune. As you already know, it is not the form the ritual takes that matters, but the result that it produces. Summary. The wave of good fortune is an accumulation of favorable lifelines in the alternative space. A cascade of good luck follows only if you have let yourself become imbued with the joyful energy evoked by the first stroke of luck. Destructive pendulums will try to coax you away from the wave of fortune. When you overcome dependence on pendulums, you win your freedom. By taking on and transmitting negative energy, you create your own hell. By accepting and transmitting positive energy, you create your own heaven. Your thoughts always return to you like a boomerang. Pendulums cannot throw you off the wave of fortune once remembering has become a habit. The habit of remembering is developed through consistent practice.